Fires are dangerous, potentially lethal, and can cause significant destruction to property. Luckily, if caught early enough, we can usually stop them. In this video, we are going to address when and how to use a fire extinguisher, as well as look at the different classes of fire and appropriate responses to each. A fire requires 3 things to survive: heat, fuel, and oxygen. If you take one of these things away, the fire will go out. When a fire is starting out, it is in what's called the incipient stage. The fire must be all of these things to be in the incipient stage. 1. The flames are no higher than your head. 2. The fire is within an area of about 6 feet by 10 feet. 3. There is not enough smoke to affect your breathing, nor is the fire too hot to approach. In other words, you don't need PPE to deal with the fire. 4. The fire is limited to the original material that was ignited. If the fire has spread to any other material or areas, it is no longer in the incipient stage. If any of these conditions are not met, the fire has grown beyond the incipient stage, and you should not attempt to use a fire extinguisher. When you determine that there is a fire, the first thing you should do is notify the SOC, who will in turn call the fire department. If you do not have an SOC, call 911 yourself. If the fire is in the incipient stage, you may use the fire extinguisher. If the extinguisher fails to put out the fire, or if it is beyond the incipient stage, it is time to evacuate. Safety is always our primary concern, so you need to make sure you and other people working in the building can evacuate safely. Stay up to date with the evacuation plan for the site, and be sure to review post orders or SOPs so that you are ready in this scenario. Continue to communicate with the SOC or your supervisor through the entire event. You should only use a fire extinguisher if these conditions are met. It is safe to do so. You have a clear exit behind you, and the fire is in the incipient stage. And finally, you have the correct type of extinguisher for the fire at hand. We will go into the different types of fires next. Some extinguishers are designed specifically for a particular type of fire, such as a grease fire, while others are combination extinguishers that cover multiple types of fires. Each fire extinguisher has markings in the form of letters or images to designate what type of fires it can put out. The Type A fire extinguisher is used for ordinary combustibles like wood, paper, and cloth. Some plastics and vegetation would also be considered ordinary. These fire extinguishers are usually water-based and should never be used on flammable liquids or electrical fires. The Type B extinguisher is for flammable liquids, such as fuel, oil, and grease. These extinguishers work by spraying CO2 to displace the oxygen from the fire and therefore remove one of its vital components. Type C extinguishers are for electrical fires. They contain a dry chemical which smothers the fire. Knowing the type of fire you are facing is extremely important because using the wrong kind of extinguisher for that fire could actually make things worse. For example, using a Type A extinguisher which sprays a water-based solution would make a Type B or Type C fire worse, potentially explosive. To reiterate, Type A extinguishers are only for common combustibles like paper or cloth. To complete your education, we will cover some types of extinguishers that you will probably not encounter in your workplace, beginning with the Type D, which is designed to deal with combustible metal. This type of extinguisher is often found in factories that work with metals like magnesium, sodium, and potassium. They usually employ a dry powder substance like sodium chloride. The final single-class type of extinguisher is the Type K. This is a chemical-based extinguisher designed for kitchen fires involving cooking oil or animal fat. Like the electrical fire, using a Type A or water-based extinguisher on one of these fires would actually make it worse, potentially even explosive. If you're concerned about remembering the different types when you're in a high-stakes situation, rest assured that there are general extinguishers designed for multiple types of fires. These are called combination types. For example, the ABC extinguisher, which works on types A, B, and C. That means that an ABC extinguisher can be used on ordinary combustibles, flammable liquids, and electrical fires. Most office buildings carry this type of combination extinguisher, though it is possible to have an extinguisher with a different combination of those 5 fire classes, a BC, for example. You should always be familiar with what type of extinguisher you have in your space and also with how to use it, which we will demonstrate next. So you've notified the SOC or 911, you have a safe path to your exit, and the fire is incipient. Let's talk about how to use the fire extinguisher. There's a simple acronym to remember the 4 steps in using it, PASS. This stands for pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. We'll demonstrate. First, you pull the pin. There's usually some kind of safety strap keeping it from being pulled too easily, so just give it a firm pull to break that. The second step is to aim at the base of the flames. Since most extinguishers use some sort of powder or chemical to deprive the fire of oxygen, if you were to aim higher, it would not be effective in smothering it. Now you'll squeeze the handle to activate the spray. And finally, you must sweep the extinguisher from side to side to help cover the entire base of the fire. There's no need to conserve. Use the entire contents to make sure the fire is out. And that's it. Pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep, or PASS. Remember, safety is the number 1 priority. Never let the fire get between you and the exit, and make sure you have the correct type of extinguisher before using it. Finally, remember that if the fire has moved past its incipient stage, do not attempt to use an extinguisher. Proceed right to evacuation. Keep these steps in mind, and you're ready to safely deal with a fire at your facility.